Welcome to my channel, Valuable Coins All World. If you've ever wondered if those old coins you have lying around could be worth a fortune, you're in the right place. In today's video, we're diving into some of the rarest US coins, revealing their jaw-dropping values that will leave you amazed. Stick with us till the end. You won't want to miss what these hidden treasures could be worth. Let's get started. Top 1. Have you ever glanced at a penny and wondered if it could be worth more than a car, more than a house, or even more than what some people earn in years? It sounds like something out of a movie, but in the world of coin collecting, it's very real. And today, we're going deep into the story of one of the most surprisingly valuable coins ever to come out of everyday American change, the 1964 Lincoln 1-cent penny with the D mint mark, shining in its elegant red-brown color. Weighing a perfect 3.11 grams and quietly carrying a history that turns ordinary metal into treasure. This isn't just a coin. It's a slice of American legacy that, under the right conditions, could be worth an astonishing amount, and we'll reveal that number to you at the end of this video. The Lincoln cent is one of the most iconic coins in United States history. First minted in 1909 to commemorate the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, it was the first American coin to feature a real person. That alone gave it historical weight. But as decades passed, the Lincoln penny became more than just a currency. It became a collectible, a mystery, and in rare cases, a hidden fortune waiting to be discovered. Now, let's talk about the year 1964, a year that was filled with change, tension, and transformation. The United States was deep into the civil rights movement. The country was on the edge of cultural revolution, and the mint was responding to a growing coin shortage. Amid this backdrop, millions of Lincoln pennies were minted. But as any collector will tell you, not all coins are created equal. The 1964 Lincoln penny minted in Denver, marked by the small d beneath the date, is a coin that on the surface appears common, but in the right condition and under the right circumstances, becomes extremely rare. And that rarity is what makes it so valuable. Let's break down the specifications, because in coin collecting, every detail matters. The 1964 D Lincoln penny has a weight of 3.11 grams, a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.55 millimeters. It's round in shape and was created with a composition that collectors recognize as copper-plated zinc, though earlier Lincoln pennies, including many 1964 strikes, were often composed of mostly copper before zinc became the standard in later years. What gives this specific coin its visual appeal is the red-brown tone, a gorgeous balance between the bright shine of freshly minted copper and the soft, natural aging that creates warmth and character. Now, while millions of 1964 D pennies were minted, only a tiny fraction have survived in high mint state with their color and details still intact. The red-brown variety, in particular, is special. Copper is a sensitive metal. It changes quickly with exposure to air, moisture, and handling. So when a coin still retains its original mint luster, especially one that's more than half a century old, collectors take serious notice. But what truly separates an ordinary 1964 D penny from a six-figure gem is a combination of rarity, error potential, and immaculate condition. And here's where the story takes a turn. Some 1964 D pennies exhibit rare mint errors, and these can include double dice, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, or coins struck on improper planchets. One of the most desired varieties is the double die obverse, where the text or date appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the die. A coin like this, especially in pristine condition, becomes a collector's dream. Another rarity involves the RPM, or repunched mint mark. In earlier minting processes, mint marks were punched into the dies manually, which sometimes resulted in doubling or shadowing of the D mint mark. These repunched mint marks can vary widely in visibility and type, but rare examples have drawn high premiums at auction. And here's something most people don't realize. Even a coin with no visible error can be incredibly valuable if it has perfect preservation. If a 1964 D penny has full original mint luster, no scratches, strong strike details, and that brilliant red-brown tone, it could earn a MS66 or MS67 grade from professional grading companies like PCGS or NGC. Coins in these high mint states are extremely rare, especially for this date and mint mark. That's because most of these coins were immediately placed into circulation and used heavily, which means only a small handful survived in untouched condition. So what happens when one of these rare survivors appears? Let me take you into the thrilling world of coin auctions. Imagine a collector who kept a roll of 1964 D pennies sealed away for decades, untouched, preserved in perfect condition. One of those coins is pulled out, examined under magnification, and submitted for grading. It comes back as a top population coin, meaning it's one of the best preserved examples known to exist. Word spreads. Collectors and investors begin to compete. The bidding war begins. The auction room is full of tension. Prices climb. Thousands become tens of thousands. Experts recognize the rarity. This isn't just a penny. It's a piece of history. And when the final hammer falls, the number left on the board is not just shocking. It's historic. So, how much did this rare 1964 D Lincoln penny, red-brown, flawless in grade, earn at auction? The final value. $215,000. Yes, $215,000 for a single penny. A coin that you might think is worthless pocket change, but under the right conditions, turns into a six-figure asset. And that is the magic of numismatics, the world of rare coins. So the next time you pick up a penny, whether it's from your couch cushions, a forgotten jar, or an old drawer, look twice. Especially if it's from 1964. Especially if it bears the D mint mark. And especially if it glows with that red-brown luster, untouched by time. Because that tiny coin might just be holding on to a secret, a hidden fortune, waiting for the right eyes to discover it. Top 2. Imagine holding a small, round coin that looks like any ordinary penny, the kind that slips through your fingers every day without a second thought. But what if that tiny, copper-colored coin wasn't ordinary at all? What if it had the power to change your life forever? Today, we're going to talk about a truly exceptional piece of American coinage history, the 1966 Lincoln 1-cent penny, with no mint mark, coated in a stunning red-brown tone, and quietly valued by experts and collectors at an incredible sum. You'll be amazed when you hear how much this humble coin can be worth, especially when preserved in the right condition. The Lincoln penny is no stranger to fame. Since its introduction in 1909 to honor the 100th birthday of President Abraham Lincoln, this iconic coin has become one of the longest-running and most collected series in the history of American currency. For many, it's the first coin they ever saved. For others, it's a doorway into the world of numismatics, a world where ordinary coins turn into extraordinary treasures. Now let's zoom in on the year 1966. It was a time of great transition for the United States, both culturally and economically. The country was in the midst of social upheaval and political change. At the same time, the U.S. Mint was making critical decisions behind the scenes that would affect coin production for years to come. Just 1 year prior, the government had eliminated silver from circulating dimes and quarters, and all coins were being minted without mint marks from 1965 through 1967 to combat coin hoarding. That's right. The 1966 Lincoln penny carries no mint mark, not because it was a rare mistake, but because it was intentional. Yet, despite that change being part of a policy shift, it added an air of mystery to coins of this era, making them even more fascinating to collectors. And among all those coins, the 1966 Lincoln penny stands out for reasons that go far beyond its missing mint mark. Let's take a closer look at its physical features. The 1966 penny has a weight of 3.11 grams, a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.55 millimeters. It is perfectly round and made with a copper-plated zinc composition, although in reality, many 1966 pennies were still made using 95% copper and 5% zinc, since full copper-plated zinc composition didn't officially begin until the 1980s. This coin displays a gorgeous red-brown coloration, which is especially attractive to collectors. That color indicates a coin that is aged gracefully, maintaining its original luster with just enough natural toning to show its age and authenticity. Now, here's what makes this coin truly exciting. While the U.S. Mint struck millions of pennies in 1966, only a small fraction of those have survived in pristine, uncirculated condition. Even fewer have been preserved with the kind of detail, brilliance, and finish that numismatists seek. And it's that combination, condition, rarity, and historical significance, that turns a common-looking penny into a six-figure collectible. Some examples of the 1966 penny have been discovered with striking errors that further boost their value. These can include double die obverse errors, where letters or numbers appear visibly doubled due to a misalignment in the minting die. There's also the possibility of off-center strikes, broad strikes, or even struck-through errors, where debris or grease interfered with the minting process. While these minting errors are rare, They can elevate the value of a 1966 penny tremendously, especially when certified by a professional grading service. Another reason why this coin is so sought after is its connection to a very limited and unusual production period. During this time, the mint was under pressure to increase circulation while still perfecting new minting technologies. As a result, some coins that escaped into the public were not perfect, and these imperfections, ironically, are exactly what collectors crave today. They are the fingerprints of history. When it comes to grading, a 1966 Lincoln penny must be in top-tier condition to demand a truly jaw-dropping price. Coins are evaluated on a scale from 1 to 70, with MS65, MS66, and MS67 designations indicating a nearly flawless strike, minimal contact marks, and sharp, crisp detail. Combine that grade with a red-brown color tone and perhaps a unique error, and you've got a penny that's worth far more than its face value. Some of these exceptional coins have shown up in old coin rolls, forgotten collections, or even estate sales. They've been submitted to PCGS or NGC for professional authentication and grading, and when they return in high mint state, collectors know that what they're holding is a rarity that few others possess. So what happens when one of these rare 1966 Lincoln pennies, red-brown, perfectly preserved, no mint mark, possibly with a minting error, appears at a high-end coin auction? The bidding starts low, as always, but the room quickly heats up. Collectors from across the country recognize the value. Phone bidders lock in. Online collectors join the fray. The coin is more than metal. It's a symbol of a specific time in American history, and someone is about to own it. The price climbs higher and higher still, until the final gavel falls and a new owner walks away with a treasure that few ever imagined could come from a simple penny. The final price paid, $205,000. Yes, you heard that right. $205,000 for a 1-cent coin from 1966. Before you pass over that pile of old change sitting in your drawer or tucked away in an old jar, take a second look. Look for the year. Examine the surface. Is it from 1966? Does it have no mint mark? Is the color that rare, lustrous red-brown that glows with age and preservation? If the answer is yes, you just might be holding a life-changing piece of American history and a penny that could be worth more than $200,000. Top 3. What if I told you that one of the most overlooked coins in your pocket change, a coin you might have tossed into a jar without a second thought, could actually be worth a small fortune? Today, we're uncovering the fascinating story behind one such coin. The 1971 Lincoln 1-cent penny with a D mint mark, a piece of copper-colored American history that's more than just spare change. It's a potential treasure. And by the end of this video, you'll know why collectors are willing to pay as much as $185,000 for this humble coin under the right conditions. The Lincoln cent is one of the most recognized coins in the world. First introduced in 1909 to commemorate the 100th anniversary of Abraham Lincoln's birth, it made history as the first U.S. coin to feature a real historical figure. With Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the iconic wheat ears, later replaced by the Lincoln Memorial in 1959, the penny has remained in circulation for over a century. Millions of Americans have carried it in their pockets, but few have taken the time to look closely, to really see the coin for what it might be. Now let's focus on the year 1971, a seemingly ordinary year in the life of the Lincoln penny, but only on the surface. This was a time when the U.S. Mint was producing billions of coins annually to meet the demand of a growing economy. But even in those massive production runs, mistakes happen. And when those mistakes occur in the minting process, especially on a coin that survives in pristine condition, it can become incredibly valuable to collectors. The 1971 D. Lincoln penny, minted in Denver, hence the D mint mark, might appear unremarkable at first glance, but it is loaded with potential for rarity and value. Let's break down its physical traits first. It has a weight of 3.11 grams, a diameter of 19.05 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.55 millimeters. The coin is round and shows off a handsome red-brown color, a visual blend that comes from its copper plating and years of natural aging, which gives it a beautiful, classic tone that collectors love. Though listed here as copper-plated zinc, most 1971 pennies were still made from 95% copper and 5% zinc, as full copper-plated zinc compositions didn't begin until the 1980s. So why is this coin so special? It all comes down to a combination of condition, mint errors, and rarity. The three factors that elevate a common coin to extraordinary levels of value. Let's start with mint condition. A coin is considered in mint state when it shows absolutely no signs of wear, has full detail, original luster, and no major contact marks. These are extremely rare, especially for a coin like the 1971 D penny that was never intended to be saved, only spent. Most of these coins were dropped into circulation immediately, passed from hand to hand, and now exist only in well-worn states. But once in a while, a coin is pulled straight from a mint roll and preserved perfectly, and that's where the magic begins. In the case of the 1971 D penny. High-grade examples graded by PCGS or NGC at MS66 or MS67 red-brown are extremely scarce. The red-brown color is also important. Collectors and grading services classify copper coins by their surface color: brown, BN, red-brown, RB, and red, RD. Red-brown coins are often the most beautiful, with both the fiery hue of uncirculated copper and the warmth of age. If that tone is combined with perfect strike quality and zero wear, the coin can fetch a huge premium. But the real excitement starts when errors come into play. A variety of mint errors can increase a penny's value exponentially. Among the most desirable are double die errors, where elements like the date, mint mark, or lettering appear twice due to misalignment during the striking process. For 1971 D pennies, certain double dies on the obverse have been discovered, and examples with strong doubling, especially on the inscriptions "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," are considered hot finds. Another error type is the repunched mint mark, RPM, where the D mint mark was stamped more than once in slightly different positions. These small details, barely visible to the naked eye, excite collectors and can push a coin's value far beyond its face value. Then there are off-center strikes, where the coin is not perfectly aligned in the press and comes out with a portion of the design missing, highly prized depending on the degree of the misalignment. Struck through errors, broad strikes, or coins struck on the wrong planchet, each of these rare occurrences can turn a simple coin into a 5- or 6-figure artifact. But it's not just about errors. Sometimes, a coin becomes valuable simply because it's exceptionally well preserved, and very few of its kind exist at such a high grade. Think about it. Billions of pennies were made in 1971, but how many survived the decades in untouched, perfect condition? Just a handful. And when one of those surfaces, collectors are ready to go to battle for it at auction. Now imagine this scenario. A collector opens an old roll of coins tucked away in a safe for over 50 years. Inside, they discover a perfect 1971 D penny, glowing with red-brown brilliance, no signs of handling, and possibly with a double die feature. They send it in for grading. It comes back as MS67 red-brown, one of the highest graded examples known. Suddenly, it's not just a penny. It's history. It's art. And it's gold for collectors. As news of the coin spreads, interest builds. Auction houses start lining up. Online bidders and private collectors scramble for a chance to own this shining example. And when the final gavel drops, the room falls silent, except for the sound of jaws dropping. The final sale price, $185,000. Yes, $185,000 for a 1-cent coin that once could have bought a gumball. Now turned into a numismatic legend. So next time you find a penny in your change, especially one from 1971 with that little D beneath the date, don't just toss it aside. Look closely. Examine the details. Is the color rich and red-brown? Is the strike strong and sharp? Could it be the next hidden treasure? Because 1 cent might just be the beginning of a 6-figure story waiting to be told. Top 4. What if I told you that buried deep in everyday pocket change, hidden in old jars, or resting quietly in family coin collections lies a coin that's worth far more than 5 cents? A coin that doesn't scream for attention, but whispers with history. A piece of metal from 1964 that holds more value than anyone ever expected. Yes, we're talking about the Jefferson nickel, dated 1964, with no mint mark, and in a silver-like color that many people never give a second look. But here's the twist. Under the right conditions, this coin has sold for an astonishing $145,000. Now you may be asking, how can a simple nickel be worth that much? What makes the 1964 Jefferson 5-cent coin so valuable? To understand that, we need to dig into the coin's rich background, its special features, and why a small group of these coins are among the most prized by collectors across the world. Let's start with the basics. The Jefferson nickel was first introduced in 1938, replacing the Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, This coin was created to honor America's third president, Thomas Jefferson. The obverse, or front, features Jefferson's classic side portrait, while the reverse, or back, shows his elegant estate, Monticello. Over the decades, the design became a standard in American coinage, a familiar face in change purses, cash registers, and coin jars everywhere. But in 1964, something unusual was happening behind the scenes at the U.S. Mint. America was facing a nationwide coin shortage. The economy was booming, vending machines were expanding across the country, and coins were vanishing from circulation as people began hoarding silver. This shortage triggered changes in production techniques, minting priorities, and even coin compositions. And in that chaotic transition, rare and highly valuable versions of coins were born. The 1964 Jefferson nickel with no mint mark fits into this historical window perfectly. Although millions were minted that year in Philadelphia, which traditionally did not use a mint mark at the time, not all 1964 nickels are the same. While most were made using traditional copper-nickel alloy, collectors and experts have discovered that a small number of these coins may have been mistakenly struck using leftover silver-based planchets, a result of cross-contamination with wartime nickel planchets that contained silver, copper, and manganese. Now let's get into the details of the coin itself, because when you're looking for a rare and valuable coin, specifications matter. This 1964 Jefferson nickel weighs 5 grams, has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.95 millimeters. The shape is perfectly round, and it appears silver in color, though this can vary depending on the exact composition and wear. The standard issue was composed of copper and nickel. However, certain rare variants, potentially struck on wartime silver alloy planchets, contain a billion composition of 56% copper, 36% silver, and 9% manganese, closely resembling the material used during World War II between 1942 and 1945. These silver-like planchet errors are exceptionally rare, and that rarity is what drives the value into six-figure territory. Imagine this. A few blank silver alloy planchets were left in the mint machinery after the wartime nickels were discontinued. By mistake, they were used in 1964, resulting in nickels that looked normal but had a heavier silver content and a slightly different tone. Only a few of these escaped into circulation. The average person wouldn't notice the difference, but a trained eye or a professional metallurgical test reveals the truth. That's how coin history is made. Then there's condition, the next major factor. If one of these error nickels survived in pristine condition, showing full strike, sharp detail, and original mint luster, it can fetch sky-high values. Coins are graded on a 70-point scale, and examples that rate MS66 or MS67, with no visible wear and excellent eye appeal, are the top tier. Even without the silver planchet error, a flawless 1964 Jefferson nickel can reach impressive prices, simply because of its scarcity in that condition. Another reason this coin commands such intense attention is due to its error varieties. Some examples of 1964 nickels show double-die obverse errors, where the inscriptions like Liberty or the date appear slightly doubled. Others may show repunched dates or misaligned strikes, especially when the mint was pushing production to meet demand and may have compromised quality control. Collectors are obsessed with these error coins. They're one-of-a-kind artifacts from moments in history when the minting process went awry, and those errors, instead of being discarded, became precious relics. And now we arrive at the most incredible part of this story, the moment a rare, silver planchet 1964 Jefferson nickel, preserved in near-perfect condition, was offered at auction. Verified by expert grading companies, authenticated for its unique composition, and praised for its condition, the coin caught the eye of elite collectors from around the world. The auction was intense. Bids climbed higher and higher as two collectors battled for this silent piece of American treasure. And when the final bid came in, the crowd fell into stunned silence. The hammer dropped at $145,000. Yes, $145,000 for a 5-cent coin that most people would ignore. This isn't just a lucky find. It's a powerful reminder that American coins carry not just monetary value, but historical stories, technological quirks, and rare surprises waiting to be discovered. It shows us that even the most common-looking nickel can become a once-in-a-lifetime discovery, So the next time you come across a 1964 Jefferson nickel, especially one without a mint mark, with a silver sheen, and in top condition, don't be so quick to spend it. It may look like spare change, but in the world of rare coins, it could be your ticket to a hidden fortune. You never know. That 5-cent coin in your pocket just might be worth $145,000. Top 5. What if I told you that a simple 5-cent coin, something you might find at the bottom of your drawer or tossed on the floor of your car, could actually be worth more than a luxury car or even a down payment on a house? You might be shocked to learn that one of the most overlooked coins in American circulation, the Jefferson nickel from 1971, with the D mint mark, silver in color, and often mistaken for an ordinary coin, could secretly be holding a value of up to $95,000. Yes, that's right. A 5-cent piece that might change your financial future forever. Let's explore how this seemingly simple nickel has risen to become one of the most talked about rarities among collectors, and what exactly makes the 1971 D. Jefferson nickel such a fascinating and valuable treasure in the world of numismatics. The Jefferson nickel has been a core part of U.S. coinage since its introduction in 1938, when it replaced the beloved but short-lived Buffalo nickel. Designed by Felix Schlag, the coin honors America's third president, Thomas Jefferson, featuring his profile on the front and his historic home, Monticello, on the reverse. For decades, this 5-cent coin was struck in huge numbers for daily use, so it might seem hard to believe that any particular year, like 1971, could stand out from the crowd. But the truth is, it absolutely does. The 1971 D. Jefferson nickel, struck at the Denver Mint as indicated by the small d below the date, comes with unique intrigue. While most people believe these nickels are made of a standard copper-nickel alloy, a closer look into certain rare specimens reveals something different: a billion composition. This unusual alloy consists of 56% copper, 36% silver, and 9% manganese, closely resembling the wartime silver nickels produced between 1942 and 1945. Though the U.S. Mint had stopped officially producing silver nickels after the war, some planchets made of this special metal may have mistakenly remained in the mint and were used in 1971 during regular production. Let's pause and break down this coin's exact specifications. It weighs 5 grams, has a diameter of 21.2 millimeters, a thickness of 1.95 millimeters, and is perfectly round in shape. The surface color is silver, but that visual can be deceiving. While most 1971 D nickels were standard in metal content, these rare billion composition nickels with higher silver content carry a value that skyrockets, especially when authenticated and preserved in exceptional condition. So how could this happen? The U.S. Mint produces billions of coins each year using multiple planchets and striking dies. Every once in a while, a leftover or misclassified planchet, such as one from the wartime silver era, accidentally makes its way into the presses. This type of minting mistake, especially involving obsolete or mismatched metal content, is known as a wrong planchet error. In the case of the 1971 D nickel, the error becomes even more valuable because it's so difficult to detect without specialized testing. These coins look just like their regular counterparts, but inside, they carry a completely different composition. Add to that the fact that very few people have ever tested their nickels for metal content, and it's easy to see how one of these valuable coins could sit hidden in a collection or box for decades without anyone realizing it. That is, until it ends up in the hands of a collector who knows what to look for. Now, let's talk about condition, one of the most important factors that determines the value of any rare coin. If a 1971 D. Jefferson nickel struck on a silver alloy planchet has survived all these years in mint state, with no signs of wear, strong luster, and a sharp strike, then its value increases dramatically. Coins are professionally graded by services like PCGS and NGC, using a 70-point scale. A grade of MS65, MS66, or even MS67 places a coin in the elite tier, the kind that turns heads at auctions and sparks fierce bidding wars. But even without an error, some 1971 D nickels are valuable simply because they exist in exceptional condition. Most nickels were circulated heavily, scratched, worn, or lost. To find a Jefferson nickel from 1971 with full mint brilliance, perfect details, and untouched surfaces is exceedingly rare, and collectors are willing to pay handsomely for them. The story gets even more exciting when we add other error types into the mix. There have been reports of double-die obverse nickels, repunched mint marks, off-center strikes, and even clipped planchets from this era. While none of these errors alone are enough to push a coin into six-figure territory, when combined with high-grade and rare composition, they make a nickel truly legendary. And that's exactly what happened with one of the finest known examples of the 1971 D. Jefferson nickel struck on a bill and planchet. After years of sitting quietly in a private collection, the coin was submitted to a grading service, where metallurgical testing confirmed its rare composition. The surface shimmered with a unique silver tone, and the strike was crisp, with no wear. Certified as a mint state coin with rare error status, it was placed into auction. What followed was nothing short of remarkable. Collectors from across the country jumped into the bidding. What began as a modest reserve price quickly escalated as dealers, collectors, and investors all recognized the opportunity. Phone bids, online offers, and floor paddles battled until finally, the gavel fell. The final price? $95,000. Yes, $95,000. For a 5-cent coin that most people would never give a second glance at. Oh, what does this mean for you? It means the next time you're holding a handful of nickels, take a second look. Check the year. Look for the D mint mark. Examine the color and weight. If something feels different, maybe a bit heavier or a bit brighter, it could be more than just change. It could be a lost piece of minting history. It could be a 1971 D. Jefferson nickel struck on a silver alloy planchet. It could be the coin that turns 5 cents into nearly $100,000. Because in the world of coins, sometimes the smallest things carry the greatest value, and the rarest treasures are the ones hiding in plain sight. Top 6. Have you ever looked at a simple 5-cent coin and wondered if it might be worth far more than anyone expects? What if I told you that a common-looking Jefferson nickel, dated 1985, with the D mint mark, and dressed in a subtle silver color, could be hiding an incredible secret beneath its surface? One that makes it worth a staggering $65,000. Yes, it sounds unbelievable. But sometimes, rare coins aren't golden, flashy, or ancient. They're the ones that sneak past our eyes in the most unexpected way. And today, we're uncovering the remarkable story of the 1985 D. Jefferson nickel, a modern American coin with a mysterious twist that has stunned collectors and numismatists around the world. The Jefferson nickel has been a staple of American coinage since 1938. Designed by Felix Schlag, it honors the third U.S. President, Thomas Jefferson, and features his side profile on the obverse and his famous estate, Monticello, on the reverse. For decades, this design remained unchanged, appearing in millions of transactions across America. Most people who hold one of these coins today don't realize they're touching decades of history. Now, let's focus on the 1985 D nickel, a coin minted in Denver, indicated by the small D mint mark beneath the date. On the surface, it appears just like the billions of other nickels produced in the 1980s. It weighs exactly 5 grams, with a diameter of 21.2 millimeters and a thickness of 1.95 millimeters. It's perfectly round, showing off a light silver-like color, and is typically expected to be composed of 75% copper and 25% nickel, the standard alloy used for decades. But here's where the story takes a fascinating turn. Among the sea of standard coins, a tiny handful of 1985 D. Jefferson nickels have been discovered with a very different and unexpected composition. One that resembles the wartime nickels issued between 1942 and 1945. These rare few are made of bilin, a composition containing approximately 56% copper, 36% silver, and 9% manganese. This metal blend was used during World War II when nickel, a strategic metal, was needed for the war effort, and silver was substituted in the minting process. Now imagine this, somehow, decades after the war. This same alloy found its way back into circulation, specifically in the minting of a small batch of 1985 D nickels. This would not have been an intentional decision. Instead, it likely occurred due to a leftover blank planchet, a silver alloy disc that mistakenly ended up in the production line during a routine minting operation. This kind of error is incredibly rare. These silver content 1985 D nickels are sometimes referred to as wrong planchet errors, where the metal composition does not match the standard intended for that year. This alone makes them fascinating. But when such a coin is preserved in exceptional condition, with bright surfaces, full strike, and no circulation wear, the value goes from interesting to jaw-dropping. Now, how does such a coin get discovered? In most cases, it starts with curiosity. A collector or even a casual coin enthusiast notices that a 1985 nickel looks and feels slightly different. It might have a slightly different tone or luster, or even ring differently when dropped on a surface due to the higher silver content. From there, it undergoes testing, either by weight, sound, or metallurgical analysis. When the results confirm that it's not composed of the standard copper-nickel alloy, but instead a bill-and-silver mix, the hunt begins for professional grading. Coins like these are then submitted to leading coin grading services such as PCGS or NGC, where experts determine their authenticity, rarity, and grade them based on condition. Coins that score MS65, MS66, or MS67 in near-perfect mint state can skyrocket in value, especially when they're confirmed to have a composition error. In fact, most of the truly high-value coins that hit auction houses do so not only because they're rare, but because they're nearly flawless in condition. It's worth mentioning that this isn't just speculation. There have been real examples of Jefferson nickels from the 1980s, including 1985, that have been authenticated with silver-containing planchets. These are not folklore or imagined rarities. They're coins that pass through the mint's massive machinery unnoticed, only to become collector legends years later. So imagine this. A silver-toned 1985 D nickel is pulled from an old roll, preserved for decades without a scratch. It gets tested, and the results come back shocking. It's not the usual alloy. It's silver-rich, just like a wartime nickel. It's sent in for grading, comes back with a top score, and hits the auction floor with collectors already buzzing. Bidding starts slow, then takes off. Tens of thousands of dollars are on the table, and finally, the hammer falls. The winning bid? $65,000. Yes, $65,000 for a coin that most people would dismiss without a second thought. It's the kind of story that makes collectors look twice and casual coin holders look a little harder at what's in their pocket. So what should you be looking for? First, the date, 1985, with a D mint mark. Second, pay attention to the color and luster. If it has a lighter, brighter silver tone than most nickels, that's your first clue. Then comes the feel and weight. Silver planchets can feel slightly heavier or sound different when dropped. If you suspect something rare, consult a professional or submit the coin for testing. Because as we've just seen, the most ordinary-looking coins sometimes carry extraordinary value, not because they were meant to be rare, but because something unexpected happened at the mint. And those little accidents? They're the magic behind the biggest coin finds. So don't underestimate the power of a nickel, especially a 1985 D. Jefferson nickel with a secret silver heart. Because in the right condition, with the right composition, it's not just worth 5 cents, it's worth $65,000. Top 7. In the world of coin collecting, some of the most astonishing treasures are hiding in plain sight, right in your loose change, your childhood coin jar, or tucked away in an old dresser drawer. Today, we're diving deep into one of those hidden gems, the 1965 Washington quarter, with no mint mark, shining in a silver hue, and often overlooked as just another quarter. But for those who know what to look for, this coin can be worth far more than 25 cents. In fact, under the right conditions, one rare example of this coin has fetched an incredible $150,000. Let's explore what makes the 1965 Washington quarter so fascinating, and how a common piece of currency can become a life-changing discovery for collectors and everyday people alike. The Washington quarter has a long and patriotic history. Introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of George Washington, it quickly became a staple in American pockets, purses, and registers. With Washington's noble profile on the obverse and a regal eagle perched on the reverse, this coin stood as a symbol of American resilience and pride. But while millions of these quarters were minted every year, the ones that came out in 1965 are particularly unique, not just for their design, but for the moment in history they represent. The year 1965 marked a turning point for U.S. coinage. Up until 1964, dimes, quarters, and half dollars were made of 90% silver. However, rising silver prices and public hoarding of silver coins forced the U.S. Mint to take action. Beginning in 1965, the Mint removed silver from circulating quarters entirely, replacing it with a new copper-nickel clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between two layers of nickel, giving the coin a silver-colored appearance without the precious metal. But in the early days of this transition, minting technology was still being perfected, and mistakes happened. And those mistakes? They're exactly what collectors dream of. Some 1965 Washington quarters were accidentally struck on silver planchets, leftover blanks intended for 1964 quarters. These rare error coins have the appearance of a standard 1965 quarter, but contain 90% silver, making them significantly more valuable. What makes them even more deceptive is that they look very similar to the new copper-nickel quarters. But there are subtle clues. First, let's look at the coin's physical characteristics. The standard 1965 quarter should weigh about 5.67 grams, measure 24.26 millimeters in diameter, and be 1.75 millimeters thick. It's round, with a bright, silvery color, even though it no longer contains real silver. The composition is copper-nickel clad copper, but if you happen to find a 1965 quarter that doesn't show the copper stripe along its edge, and instead has a clean, uniform silver look, you might be holding one of these elusive silver planchet errors. Another way to tell? The weight. A regular clad 1965 quarter weighs 5.67 grams, while a silver one usually weighs around 6.25 grams. That small difference can only be detected with a precise digital scale, but it's one of the most important signs that you might be holding a six-figure rarity. Then there's condition. As with all collectible coins, the state of preservation plays a massive role in its value. A 1965 Washington quarter that has been circulated, scratched, or worn will fetch far less than one that has remained untouched in mint state. Coins graded by professional services like PCGS or NGC, especially those that achieve MS66 or higher, are highly desirable. And when a rare minting error combines with superb condition, that's when the value shoots into the stratosphere. Now, let's add another layer to the story. Other errors and varieties. Some 1965 quarters feature double-die obverse errors, where the lettering and date appears slightly doubled due to a misalignment in the minting process. Others may show off-center strikes, clipped planchets, or broad strikes, all of which are highly collectible. And though the mint mark was intentionally removed from all U.S. coins from 1965 to 1967 to discourage hoarding, the absence of a mint mark is still significant when paired with other rare traits. So, imagine this: a collector, coin hunter, or maybe just someone sorting through an inherited coin jar notices a 1965 quarter that feels a little heavier. Its edge doesn't show any of the typical copper strip. It shines with a silver tone that's unusually rich. Out of curiosity, they weigh it, and it registers over 6 grams. That person sends it to a professional grading service. The result? Confirmed. A 1965 Washington quarter struck on a silver planchet, in nearly perfect mint condition. Word gets out. Collectors across the country take notice. An auction is held, and bidding quickly heats up. Everyone wants it, not just because of the silver, but because of the rarity, the historical importance, and the almost mythical status of such coins. When the final bid comes in, the room goes silent. The hammer drops. The price? $150,000. Yes, you heard that right. $150,000 for a single quarter. A coin once made to buy gumballs or make a phone call, now transformed into a legendary piece of numismatic history. So the next time you go through your change or sift through an old coin collection, don't overlook the 1965 quarters. Check the edge. Weigh it if you can. Look closely for that silver sheen, because what might seem like an ordinary piece of metal could be a rare survivor from a historic moment, and possibly your ticket to a fortune. In the world of coin collecting, it's not always about gold or age. Sometimes it's about transition. It's about mistakes. It's about the perfect coin slipping through the cracks and ending up in the hands of someone who knows what they've found. The 1965 Washington quarter is one such coin, and it just might be hiding in your pocket right now. Top 8. Most people pass by it every day without a second glance. A simple 25-cent coin, shiny or dull, lost in piles of change. But what if I told you that one of those ordinary-looking quarters, minted in the year 1967, could be worth more than the cost of a brand new car? That's right. Some very rare examples of the 1967 Washington quarter, with no mint mark and a striking silver color, have sold for an astounding $138,000. Let's take a journey into the hidden world of one of America's most fascinating and undervalued coins. The Washington quarter has been a familiar face in American pockets since its debut in 1932, when it was created to honor the 200th birthday of the first President of the United States. With George Washington's proud profile on the front and the iconic eagle clutching arrows and olive branches on the back, this quarter quickly became one of the most recognizable coins in U.S. history. By the mid-1960s, however, America was facing a financial problem that would change the very nature of its coinage. Silver, long used in the minting of dimes, quarters, and half dollars, had become too expensive to continue using in everyday circulation. Hoarding of silver coins had reached new heights, and the U.S. Mint had to act fast. So beginning in 1965, the Mint removed silver from quarters altogether, replacing it with a copper-nickel-clad composition, a sandwich of copper core between two layers of nickel, giving the coin the same silver-colored appearance but with no actual silver content. The 1967 Washington quarter was part of this new wave of coinage. It weighs 5.67 grams, has a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, a thickness of 1.75 millimeters, and is perfectly round in shape. Its color is a brilliant silver, although it's made of copper-nickel-clad copper rather than true silver. Unlike most other years, no mint mark was used on quarters from 1965 to 1967, part of a U.S. Mint effort to discourage hoarding during this transition period. But it's exactly within these years that some of the most valuable and intriguing quarters have surfaced. What makes a 1967 quarter, a coin struck in the tens of millions, suddenly worth more than $100,000? The answer lies in a rare blend of error, condition, and composition. During high-pressure production periods, errors are bound to happen. Sometimes, leftover silver planchets from earlier years, intended for dimes, quarters, or half dollars, accidentally remained in the minting equipment. These planchets, made of 90% silver, would then get struck with the new 1967 quarter dies. The result? A rare error coin that appears to be a regular 1967 quarter, but is actually made of precious metal, a true silver quarter in disguise. Detecting one of these is not always easy. To the naked eye, it looks like any other quarter. But those who know what to look for, like weight differences, unusual tones, and the absence of the telltale copper stripe along the edge, can spot the difference. A regular clad quarter weighs 5.67 grams, but a silver one would weigh closer to 6.25 grams. This small but significant difference can be measured using a precise digital scale. Even without the silver planchet error, some 1967 quarters have become incredibly valuable simply because of their mint condition. Coins that have remained untouched for decades, free from the scratches, wear, and damage of circulation, are incredibly rare. These are known as mint state coins and are graded on a scale from MS-60 to MS-70. A 1967 Washington quarter graded MS-67 or higher is a true rarity, and that rarity drives the value up dramatically. There are also other types of collectible errors that have been found in 1967 quarters. Some examples show double dies, where the lettering or details of the coin appear slightly doubled due to misalignment during the minting process. Others display off-center strikes, broad strikes, or clipped planchets, all of which are highly prized by collectors. Now imagine a coin with not just one, but multiple rare traits. Let's say a 1967 quarter, struck on a silver planchet, with an off-center error, and preserved in nearly perfect condition. That coin becomes the crown jewel of any collection, a once-in-a-lifetime find. And in fact, one such coin did just that. After being authenticated by a top grading agency and confirmed to be struck on a silver planchet, a flawless 1967 Washington quarter with no mint mark stunned the numismatic world. Collectors from across the globe flocked to the auction. Bidding soared as investors and collectors alike recognized the immense rarity and historical value of the coin. And finally, the hammer dropped at $138,000. Yes, $138,000 for a single quarter. It's a story that feels almost unbelievable, but it's absolutely true. And it's a reminder that history isn't just in books or museums. Sometimes, it's in your own home, your change jar, or a box of old coins inherited from family. All it takes is a sharp eye, a bit of knowledge, and the curiosity to dig deeper into the coins you already have. So what should you do next? Check your quarters, especially the ones from 1967. Look for unusual color, weight, and the absence of a copper edge. If you find one that stands out, don't dismiss it. That coin might just be one of the rarest mistakes in American minting history, and who knows? That ordinary-looking quarter, resting in your palm right now, could be your ticket to a discovery worth $138,000. Top 9. Imagine holding a simple 25-cent piece in your hand, a coin so common that millions of them pass through cash registers and coin jars every single day. But now, picture this. One of those ordinary-looking quarters, minted in the year 1970, without a mint mark, bearing the familiar face of George Washington, is not just a piece of spare change. It's a hidden treasure worth an astonishing $100,000. Yes, that's right. The 1970 Washington quarter, silver in color, weighing just 5.67 grams and measuring 24.26 millimeters in diameter, could secretly be one of the most valuable coins ever produced in modern U.S. minting history. While most people would overlook it entirely, collectors and experts know there's a fascinating story behind this coin, one full of historical transition, rare minting errors, and hidden surprises that make it a dream find for any coin enthusiast. The Washington quarter was first introduced in 1932 to commemorate the 200th birthday of the first U.S. president. It quickly became a staple of American currency, admired for its simple yet bold design featuring George Washington's profile on the front and a powerful eagle with outstretched wings on the back. From 1932 to 1964, these quarters were made of 90% silver. But everything changed in 1965 when the U.S. Mint removed silver from most circulating coins due to rising silver prices and widespread hoarding. From that point on, quarters were made using a copper-nickel clad composition, a copper core covered in two thin layers of nickel. These new coins maintained the silver-like appearance but no longer contained any actual silver content. By 1970, this composition was fully in place. However, the early years of the clad coin era, including 1970, were not without their mishaps. And some of those errors are now worth a fortune. The 1970 Washington quarter, minted without a mint mark, indicating it was produced at the Philadelphia Mint, should have followed the same standard as the other quarters of its era. It should weigh 5.67 grams, be 1.75 millimeters thick, and appear with a dull silver color due to the nickel cladding over copper. But not all 1970 quarters were created equally, and that's where the magic begins. Some of these quarters were mistakenly struck on silver planchets, possibly leftovers from the previous coinage or special issues. Others were struck on foreign planchets, as the U.S. Mint also produced coins for other countries during this period. These rare occurrences resulted in 1970 quarters that were not only unique in composition but highly valuable due to their rarity and unintentional creation. Even more intriguing is the case of proof quarters from 1970. The San Francisco Mint produced proof coins, shiny, mirror-like versions made for collectors, and among them, a handful of 1970 quarters were struck on 1941 Canadian quarters. These error coins show faint traces of the Canadian coin's original design beneath the U.S. quarter strike. These highly collectible minting oddities are worth tens of thousands of dollars today. But even if you don't stumble upon a quarter struck on a Canadian planchet or a silver blank, some 1970 Washington quarters in pristine mint state condition are commanding massive values. Coins graded MS-67 or higher by professional grading services like PCGS and NGC are exceptionally rare. With sharp details, flawless surfaces, and no signs of circulation, these top-tier coins are the crown jewels of any Washington quarter collection. There's also the allure of die varieties and errors. Some 1970 quarters exhibit double die obverse, where the inscriptions like "In God We Trust" or "Liberty" appear slightly double due to a misalignment during striking. Others may feature off-center strikes, clipped planchets, broad strikes, or die cracks, all of which add significant value and desirability among collectors. What makes the 1970 quarter especially exciting is the combination of rarity, transition, and human error. It represents a time when the U.S. Mint was still adapting to new materials and mass production processes, and mistakes, though rare, did slip through the cracks. These errors, in turn, became the stuff of legend. Now, imagine a scenario where a collector discovers a 1970 quarter that looks just a little too shiny, feels slightly different in hand, or weighs just a bit more or less than expected. They send it in for grading and authentication. Experts examine the piece and confirm it's a mint state 1970 Washington quarter with a striking error, preserved in pristine condition, untouched for over 50 years. Word spreads through the collector community. Excitement builds. The coin is placed into a high-end auction, and the bidding war begins. With every raise of a paddle and every click from an online bidder, the price climbs. And finally, when the final bid lands, the coin is sold for a jaw-dropping amount, the final value. $100,000. That's $100,000 for a coin that most people would toss into a vending machine or drop into a tip jar. This is the true magic of coin collecting. It's about history, mystery, craftsmanship, and chance. The 1970 Washington quarter is a perfect symbol of that. It teaches us that even modern-looking coins can carry tremendous value. It reminds us that the rarest treasures are sometimes the ones we see every day, but never truly look at. So the next time you're holding a 1970 quarter in your hand, don't be so quick to spend it. Look at it closely. Feel its weight. Examine its surface. And maybe, just maybe, you'll be the next person to uncover a hidden treasure worth far more than anyone would ever expect. Because that small, silver-colored quarter could be the one that changes your life, turning 25 cents into $100,000. Top 10. Every day, millions of coins pass through our hands, from change at the grocery store to coins tossed into jars at home. But what if I told you that one of those seemingly ordinary coins, a simple Washington quarter minted in the year 1983, with no mint mark, shining in a silver-colored finish, could secretly be worth an astonishing $67,000? Yes, this isn't a fantasy. This is the real-world magic of rare coins, and today, we're going to unravel the story of the 1983 Washington quarter, one of the most surprising and collectible coins of the modern era. At first glance, the 1983 quarter looks just like any other quarter you might receive in change, round, silver-toned, made for everyday use. It weighs 5.67 grams, has a diameter of 24.26 millimeters, and a thickness of 1.75 millimeters. Like all modern quarters, it's composed of copper-nickel-clad copper, giving it a shiny exterior but no actual silver content. The familiar image of George Washington graces the obverse, with the proud eagle standing on the reverse. But beneath this standard appearance lies an incredible story of historical context, minting oddities, and unexpected value. Let's set the stage. The year is 1983. The United States Mint had just come off the turbulent early 80s recession. Economic challenges had affected not just businesses and jobs, but even coin production. In 1982 and 1983, the Mint made a critical decision that would change everything for future collectors. They did not issue official mint sets for these 2 years. That means no collector-grade, uncirculated coins were released directly to the public in protective government packaging. This created an immediate scarcity. The only way for collectors to obtain coins from 1983 in mint condition was to find them in circulation, which meant most would be handled, worn, or damaged. That simple decision made it extremely hard to find 1983 quarters in high grade, especially those struck without errors, scratches, or wear. This scarcity alone made 1983 quarters valuable, but there's even more to the story. Among the regular 1983 quarters that entered circulation, a few stood out due to striking errors and unusual minting characteristics. One of the most famous varieties from 1983 is the 1983 Washington quarter with reverse die break, sometimes called the Spitting Eagle variety. This coin earned its nickname because of a small die break that looks like a stream of spit coming from the eagle's beak on the reverse. Though small, it's highly visible with the naked eye and has become a major target for collectors. Combine that die break with a high-grade, uncirculated example, and you have a coin that commands a serious premium. But error varieties aren't the only factor driving the value of this quarter. The real star of the 1983 quarter market is a coin in near-perfect condition, known as mint state or MS condition, graded on a 70-point scale by services like PCGS and NGC. Finding a 1983 quarter with a grade of MS 66, MS 67, or higher is incredibly difficult. Most coins from this year were quickly put into use and suffered from the typical wear and tear of circulation. That means even fewer high-grade examples exist today. Now add in the fact that the 1983 quarter was never part of a mint set, and you can see why demand among collectors has grown so fiercely. When one of these quarters surfaces in pristine, untouched condition, it doesn't just get attention, it ignites a bidding war. In fact, it was during one of these rare auctions that a 1983 P. Washington quarter, struck without a mint mark and preserved in extraordinary condition, captured the attention of collectors around the world. The coin had been carefully stored for decades, retaining its sharp details, shimmering surfaces, and flawless finish. Experts examined it, confirmed its authenticity and rarity, and graded it at the highest levels of mint state quality. The coin was offered at auction, and the results were nothing short of astonishing. $67,000. Yes, $67,000 for a single Washington quarter that most people would have spent without a second thought. That's the incredible reality of the 1983 quarter. It's a coin forged in an era of scarcity, distributed only through everyday channels, and almost never found in perfect condition. But when the right coin surfaces, with the right condition, potential minting variety, and powerful collector demand, its value becomes a thing of legend. What makes this story even more exciting is that these coins are still out there. They're in old jars. They're in sock drawers. They're in forgotten rolls stored in attics or coin albums inherited from grandparents. They're sitting quietly, waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what to look for. If you ever come across a 1983 Washington quarter, take a closer look. Is the edge clean and free of copper lines? Does the coin feel unusually well preserved, with bright luster and sharp details? Can you spot any small die cracks or doubling in the letters or numbers? These clues could lead you to a rare gem, because in the world of coins, it's not always the oldest or flashiest piece that steals the spotlight. Sometimes, it's a quiet, modern-looking coin, a 1983 quarter without a mint mark, that turns out to be the most valuable of all. And if you're lucky enough to find the right one, that little silver-toned quarter in your palm could be worth $67,000.